Whether it's at the sportsbook or anywhere else in the casino, he's always helping us find an edge. It's time for Fezzik Fridays.
The only back-to-back winner of the Hilton SuperContest. Has that ever come up on the show before?
There was only like 20 people back then.
Yeah.
It's trivial.
Yeah, that's what people say to you. There's only like 20
It's
people.
three guys in some attic in the contest. It's meaningless.
That's how you want it. Before we get, because we have so much to get to here. You got college football plays, you got pro thoughts, we got survivor thoughts to get to. Betting shops doing fascinating things here all of a sudden. I want to just bring up one thing because I was talking to Felica and Notre Dame came up. Is it too early? You know, if they go 0-2, is it panic mode? You texted something at that moment, which I was sort of smiling to myself because last year, Game 2, famously, the Fighting Irish lose to Northern Illinois, and there were people, not me, right? Because I was the one who was fighting this, but there were people who were like, "Oh, they're done.
They're Squid Games eliminated. Yes. Notre Dame."
And I'm like, "No, they're not. Like, do you know anything about how this college football works? If they go 0-2, they're not eliminated, are they?
They could lose this year. They could lose 73-0 to Texas A&M, and everyone's like, "They're donezo. They're out." And then, but you know what? Then the leaves turn, and then we fast forward into November, and then they beat up 4 cupcakes, and they beat a top 20 team, and all of a sudden, you know, they start talking about whether they're going to get a bye or not. They're certainly going to be in they won't get a bye, but they'll be in the championship.
Yeah. All right, you have a bunch of college football plays. Would you like me to scream them out loud, or you want to scream them?
You can go ahead.
All right. Friday, tonight, Arizona, Kansas State under 54.5.
Yes. You know, the more I think about this, and this is the time of year, by the way, I turn the page. I kind of week 0, 1, 2, I like playing unders. Now I like playing overs usually. But this one kind of makes sense because you think to yourself, Arizona, that's an over team, right? And then I'm the great aggregator, if you will. So my guys say this total should be 52. But it makes sense to me. Like intuitively, it feels like, oh, Arizona, that's a high scoring team. And I could see why this number was sitting out there at 55, mid 50s. So the more I think about it, the more I'm like, that's a good contrarian under.
Okay. Kansas State, Arizona under tonight, college football. With the Houston Cougars, you are laying the points, and you were also sprinkling on the money line a little bit on the minus 180 price.
Yeah, so if you normally bet 220 to win 200 on something, risk 110, lay the 4, and risk 110 on the money line, so you could split it up that way. Colorado is just one of those teams, and I know they've had some nice results, but basic strategy just screams in me, bet against this team, with all the distractions and not being buttoned up, bad game management decisions. And also the one thing that drives me crazy is it's one thing when a coach makes bad game decisions, and it's another thing when he's interviewed, a complete inability to ever recognize that maybe there's opportunity for improvement, and so they'll just keep making the same mistakes over and over. And we talk about this famously in the NFL, how we love coaches that do smart things because it seems so rare.
We'll get to that. Speaking of the fact that you do like overs now, this week moving forward, New Mexico, UCLA, you're going over 52.5 here. Are you also playing UCLA or just the over?
I played UCLA minus 15 also. Okay. So 4 plays, and obviously it's correlated, so you could play UCLA parlay to the over. But that's not an official play.
That's being clear. Yes.
Yeah, I really like this time of year also when there's big favorites, and even more than the 15. I love like when there's a 38-point favorite and a total's 51. I'm like, I never want to lay the 38. I just want to play over 51 because obviously the favorite can get there by themselves. But, it seems impossible for some of these teams. Like, they're not going to be able to score. It's like, I assure you, they can score. Just the punt return, just pick sixes. Weird things happen in football games over 60 minutes. And there's always the back door in the final, possession against the backups.
Also mentioned earlier, we're talking about Clemson having lost to LSU, and then they were down to Troy at halftime before they came back. You have played an adjusted win total on Clemson.
Yes. So Clemson opened 9.5 wins. All right. And it got bet up. So there was VIG to the over. And now the total's 9.5 with big VIG to the under, minus 160. That seems like a big adjustment. Instead of being minus 160 to the over, it's minus 160 to the under. But now think about it. Clemson has already lost a game against LSU as a favorite. So they were supposed to win that game maybe like 0.65, and they got 0 wins out of it. So they already dropped 2/3 of a win just from that game. And their power rating's down like 7 points from the start of the year. They're only laying like 2.9 against Georgia Tech. They were laying 9 to start the season. So they just lost, 0.25 wins in expectation in that game. And what's this? Florida State is on the schedule. I can only imagine what Clemson was in Games of the Year lines. Now the only question by the time they play is who's going to be favored, right? I mean, crazy to think Clemson's going to get to 10.
I love when you interrupt your own sentence by going, wait, what's this? It's very Batman Adam West. What's this?
What's it? I stole it from my Ada Clubs friend Leon. He does this. What?
Don't forget to look both ways, Robin, when you cross the street. While we're giving out picks, because I want to get some other stuff, but how about an NFL play? You have an under.
Yeah, I was thinking Denver, Indy, just big picture. So Denver grinds out a win, right, last week against the Titans, and they turn the ball over 4 times. They're sloppy with the ball. Nix is sloppy. Got a great defense. Why risk anything? Just turn over the defense. Be careful with the ball. So I see ultra conservatism from Denver. I see a whole lot of Jonathan Taylor for Indianapolis. It's at 43. Let's go under.
Okay. Stevie coming out firing with college football and an NFL play.
And we get 43.5. There is a 43.5 out there.
Under 43.5, Denver and Indianapolis this Sunday afternoon, one of the afternoon games at Lucas Oil Stadium. Okay, so for those who don't know, you run a sports service. You are giving out all kinds of plays, pre-flop, sides, totals, halftime bets. You're giving out a bunch of stuff, but some of it is live. That is fraught with peril, isn't it?
I've thought about this. Yeah, and the problem, I hear all the time, well, people can't get it, okay?
Yeah.
Because you literally have to be sitting, at your phone or at the computer, get the notification, and you've got 1.5 minutes to bet. I give it out during TV timeouts, all right? And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, it's actually much, much more available than most normal releases, and here's why. Let's assume Dr. Bob is giving out, his releases, right? Season wins, all right?
Oh, they move too quick.
You have 3 seconds.
It's ridiculous.
To get down, literally 3 seconds. Yeah. All right, if you're fast, you got the right book.
Sometimes you don't even have that.
Yeah, sometimes 0, sometimes you'll have up to 45 seconds, depending upon the book. But once, as Springsteen said, those lines are moving, boys, and they ain't coming back. All right, if you wake up, if you try to bet an hour later, you're done. So the thing about the live betting is that I'm not just picking off like a Dumbo stale number. I'm saying I like Cleveland to beat Cincinnati. It's like give out Cleveland in the second quarter. You know what? If you miss it, if you don't get it right away, you got the whole rest of the game. You might get a better number. You might get a worse number. But you can bet it during the next TV timeout and et cetera. The handicap is still valid. Whereas if Right Angle Sports or Dr. Bob or someone else like that gives out a play, you're donezo. You cannot get the number 30 seconds later. So I would argue the live bets are way more available than a lot of this other stuff.
Yeah, but they move quick, too, in a different way, right? Because action is happening. But you're right. If you get it at a stoppage.
But it's unbiased. It might move in your favor.
That's right.
It might move against you. That's right.
Absolutely right. The Bob thing is literally like one of the pillars of offshore. If I try to bet that, it's not even 3 seconds. The juice is already so high on some of it, right? Before the number moves. And
I get so frustrated because people they want to yell at me. They're mad at me. They're like disagreeing with me. Everything I say is wrong. And it's like, what I don't understand is like we, I got friends that are professional gamblers. We all talk about this, and we all say, of course, Right Angle Sports and Dr. Bob are not just better, they're way better than most good services. And the best evidence I can give is, Circa, they buy Dr. Bob's plays. Circa,
that's right,
buys Right Angle Sports plays. I mean, the sports book that is paying people a lot of money to do this work is effectively employing them as consultants.
Anybody in the employ of Circa who says that, who has said, if you're so good at betting, why do you sell picks? They're the biggest walking hypocrites because they're the one buying the picks themselves. That's exactly right.
And it just makes, I buy picks all the time. I mean, the whole idea that someone would say, oh, I'm like, I don't buy picks. I know it all. I know everything.
Also the notion that if, again, and we put Raz and Dr. Bob on a certain category unto themselves, right?
Carl Sack, NBA guru.
There are exceptions to the rule. Yes, most people, right, historically, who sell picks, right? These guys are built different, and also the notion of if they're so good, why they sell picks. Did you tell your stockbroker the same thing? Like, who are you to tell other people what streams of revenue they should have, and also what their risk aversion should be?
If you're
right,
imagine a mutual fund manager. If you're so good, why would you need 10 analysts to help you? I mean, anyone that says like why would someone sell their picks? It's actually, I'll say it's like throwing great guys like Adam Burke, Steve Makinen under the bus.
Yeah.
If these guys were so good, why would they have to be employed? Why wouldn't they just, they do great work and they give out more winners than losers. And guess what? Because they can bet their stuff and make money, and they can make more money by providing consulting and working for companies and providing that great info.
It's such a lazy, ill-informed way to look at things that paints everything with one broad brush, and it's just not. It's just
and for some people it is true. Some people can't win at all, and they sell their picks. And
that's right.
And I 100% agree with that.
Just don't broad brush it. Stringfellow Hawk talking about the fight. He says, "I'm Canelo by decision at plus 125. Crawford's fought once in 2 years and jumping up 2 weight classes. May add Canelo by late stoppage." I thought that point by Al was great. Like I walk out of some of these boxing matches through the years, and what do I say to myself? Steve Fezzik, by the way, joining me once again here. I always say, I go, reminder to self, don't bet this sport ever again because these decisions are nonsense. I didn't use the word nonsense, right? And Al pointed it out. He was like, here's the thing. If you like Crawford by decision, which a lot of people do, and that's plus 210, Crawford's plus 155-ish to win the fight, and any which way, plus 210 by decision. Just remember all those decisions that seem to, I don't know why they go Canelo's way, but he seems to get the benefit of the doubt. Do you bet boxing at all?
Sure, I bet everything, not much. I do have a question for you. And
yes, sir.
We don't know what the judges' scorecards are until the whole match is over. How?
I know where you're going.
How can they not say at the end of one round, here's what the judges have scored, and put a scoreboard up
Why
there?
don't we do that?
Maybe they feel that the judges are being compromised by what the other judge is scoring, and he sees the other scoring, but you could shield them you could put them like in a little booth where they wouldn't, everyone in the arena would know the score but them.
Right. You wouldn't want them to get a crowd reaction that would then influence them moving forward.
Right. But you could find a way to like I said, just put them in an isolation
This
booth.
is a great innovation, right? I think this has to be done. The best we ever got with that was Jim Lampley going to Harold Letterman mid-fight, right? Mm-hmm. Where he would go, I don't know, Jim, I got this fight scored. That's the only thing we would ever get mid-fight. Otherwise, we're all waiting. Like, it's 2025. What other thing in life do we have to wait till the end to find out? Oh my God, I can't wait to hear
soccer and how much time's left with the extra time. But can you imagine? Badosa thinks she's ahead in this tiebreaker, but she's really not sure.
She's really not sure. This is from Matthew Mayberry. What was Dr. Bob on this weekend? I missed it. He is on Tennessee plus the points. Tennessee plus the points against Georgia, and then Iowa Pete.
By the way, Felica on the other side, and when those two gentlemen are on the opposite side, probably best to just find a different game.
Oppo alert. Iowa Pete reacting to the crack segment yesterday. He said, my wife and another woman had their cell phones stolen while playing slots last month at Bellagio. Security could not have cared less. In this case, wife's phone turned up in China a week later.
How good is Circuit? True story. I was just, depositing some money, and literally, nice gentleman. He's coming from Circus Swim already. He's already clearly under the influence. He has like a winning ticket that looks like it's been through a dryer. It's all crumpled up, like somehow it's survived his pocket from last night from partying. And then they go to the other window that opens up, and what is there that's been left on the counter? Of course, a cell phone from the previous customer.
Disc golfer. Just a heads up, the VSiN Live players still list hour 3 of the show as money moves. Oh, we can't have that. Ooh. Note to self. Note to everybody. Raider Nation 75. Wow, Kelly, 94 pounds. Amazing. Like losing a second grader of 11.75 Shaq babies. Love the show today. Thank you, Raider Nation 75. And Coach Harry Ellis, my experience with buying picks started with a well-known tout who gave me both sides of an NBA game. Oh, this is the history of this industry. He gave me both sides of an NBA game, one on a voicemail and another on a phone call. However trustworthy they all might be, I'll never buy straight picks from anyone. I do buy services like Phil Steele because I get 50 game write-ups and can make up my own mind. That's what Bob, by the way, does, that lengthy analysis on everything, right? So it's what matters to you the most. Here's the analysis, you decide kind of thing.
Yeah, it's really nice to have a write-up. The problem with the write-up, and Dr. Bob, I think, would be the first to admit it, is that you don't want to do a write-up explaining just how overrated Jacksonville State is week 2. And then all of a sudden, what's this? As soon as the numbers come out, people are betting against Jacksonville State each and every week, compromising the number.
What's this? Will Batman survive? All right, let me ask you this about the this thing that's happening in Vegas. All of a sudden, kind of out of the blue. BetMGM all of a sudden dealing minus 102s on Thursday Night Football an hour before the game? What's that about?
Crack alerted me to this. So it's minus 105, but then an hour before the game, it goes to minus 102 in each direction. So it shows, it illustrates.
Have they promoted this at all? No.
Yeah. Crack promoted it for them. Yeah. But it shows, in my eyes, how difficult it is to win, right? So think about this.
Yeah.
Minus 110, you have to hit 52.4%. So at minus 102, you have to hit like 50.4% of the time in order to turn a profit. And yet, is everybody driving to the MGM to bet their minus 102?
Bro, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, we should give a shout out. Westgate does minus 105. Boomers does minus 105 as well. The new Joe Asher spot. Joe longing for my arrival, I'm sure.
They're not taking big action at Boomers. People are disappointed.
Yes. I'm sure they are. Okay, let's go to Survivor. So earlier in the week, Kelly and I think it might have even been yesterday or the day before. I don't even know when. But earlier in the week at some point, Kelly put up like 6 games in Survivor. This is Tim Lawson inspired, Megapod historian. And the headline was, because I went through the 4 teams of the big spreads that I'm not going to play, the 4 teams from which I'm considering of the big spreads. And then he put up 6 games of really small spreads this week. And the headline was, smart, I don't know, something to the effect of contrarian play or too cute. And I said, not only is it too cute, I said it's adorable. Like I said, you should never play this kind of stuff, right? Because it's way too cute. You not only believe this, but you've actually attached numbers to this as well.
Yeah. So what's happened, and I get it. People want to take a path of least resistance or a path where they can get a bigger payout. So they don't want to just take the obvious play. Last week, the obvious play was Denver. This week's Baltimore. And that all makes sense to be contrarian when everybody else is playing the basic play, but everyone isn't playing the basic play. The internet's chock full of, hey, which underdog should I play in the Survivor? Well, here's the actual numbers.
I told you the Broncos last week was only going to be 30-some%.
It was less than 40%.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, I've got 2 points I want to make. So in order to, it's like a 20-team parlay. You got to pick 20 winners.
Yes.
All right. So the best you can really hope for is if you map out a good path, be like just a smidgen over 70% on each play. Now, some of your plays are going to be 85% plays. Some weeks you're going to have to be stuck with like a 58% play. But we'll call it on average 70%. It turns out the odds of hitting a 20-team parlay at a little over 70% are approximately 1,000 in one. All right. So you'd have to play 1,000 times to win once. If you just dilute that down to where you're only playing 60% plays, or you're being cool, you're taking contrarian path. Now your odds, you think, maybe it's 3,000 or 4,000 to 1. It goes to 27,000 to 1. All right, it's 27 more times difficult.
As opposed to 1,000 to 1.
Yes,
27,000.
and if you want to just play pick'ems, all right, be complete contrarians, just pick the winner of pick'em games, it's 1,000,000 to 1. It will never happen.
Yeah.
You will not succeed. Now, I get it. You're not just doing that every week. You're doing some of the weeks, but you do it enough weeks.
Yeah.
And you're just so up against it. And what I would encourage everyone to do is, like, if you're in Survivor and you get your $1,000 and you're playing this cutesy stuff where you're taking a 2-point favorite, all right, take $100, all right, as a side pot and start just putting that on the money line and investing that, all right? And what you're going to find is it's not going to take very long. And obviously, it could be a huge upset that will change this. By the end of week 5, you're going to have on your Survivor, you're like, my Survivor's worth $2,600, but
here it is right here, by the way. Too cute or a good gamble.
They're all adorable.
They're all adorable.
But my point, like it makes sense. If you played 5 close to pick'em games, you're going to have, you're going to have $32,000. Is what your Survivor should be worth, and it's only going to be worth, like, its implied value is going to be worth $3,000. So you're not getting enough bang for your buck. It is rarely wrong to play the biggest favorite, as long as you don't want to blow your path like of Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Right.
And now, if everybody did that, people are like, well, Steve, if everybody did that, it would be wrong. And I agree. But if everybody did it, then you could be contrarian. But you don't. Everyone else is being contrarian more than half the people.
So you would agree. So I just want to contextualize a little bit. So that is not to say, though, that in weeks where there are 5 or 6, 7-point favorites, the real optimal way to play that is find the one that is not the most picked, right? And that's what the optimal quote-unquote contrarian way to go is.
Exactly. You want to be slightly contrarian. It's fine to take a 6-point favorite if it gets you down a separate and a better path than a 6.8-point favorite. But in general, like this week, you just take your little finger and put bubble in Baltimore and survive in advance. And again, but if it turns out 85% of the people take Baltimore, it's still correct, I believe. But it won't be 85%
It's
Baltimore.
like the thought exercise, though, that I did with Parles, Grover Cleveland, a producer, Parlay, who, Thanksgiving, famously, I said to him, okay, let's say there was 100 people. This was the Raiders-Cowboys game, and the Cowboys were heavily favored. And I said to him, I go, let's say you knew in advance that 99 people of the 100 were going to be on the Cowboys. Wouldn't you take the Raiders? And
Absolutely.
He was like, no, I can't do it. I was like, Jeff, you're playing to win. How many times in your life will you get a chance to win 6 or 7 million? You have to play it at that point.
Yeah.
But we don't know those numbers in advance.
Yes.
I always not only appreciate the feedback, but also appreciate the feedback about previous shows from people who are just listening now or just commenting now. This is from Fairway Fred with record entries this year, over 18,000. The Survivor Chop over-under this year, he says, is 11.5 people. He says, question mark. 11.5 people?
Pre-flop, we talked about this in production here. 18, but remember, I said it's 1,000 to 1 odds. Basically, if you hit 70.7%. Now people don't play optimally, so maybe a little under 18.5. We would have made 16.5, but everybody got through week one. 22.5 is the over/under. Want to go over or under?
22.5.
That's my number. Minus 110 either direction.
I'll go under.
You go under?
Yeah.
Dinner.
How about for Grandissimo? What do you think the number of weeks?
Well, we're gonna lose half of the field every 2 weeks. So we go from after 2 weeks 33, 11, 6, 3, 1 after 10 weeks. It's
I'm going to say
10 weeks.
I'm going to say 2 people go mano a mano for a few weeks and then they decide to chop.
All right, 10 weeks is when it ends.
Okay. Brett Lidka. Fez is spot on. Started it this year with my Survivor friends. 4 of us put in money each. X dollars each, and one person chooses a NFL money line play. If it hits, we roll it to the next week and pass the ticket, similar to a show pool in horse betting. Gen X Millennial, tech question. If I rate, review, like your pod on Spotify, does it help too, or do I need to do it in Apple Pods? That's a great question. I have no idea. Apple would be the preference, I would suppose. But thank you for that, Gen X Millennial. Table Max, I started 6-1, tied for 10th in Average Joe. Assuming I keep that pace and win, do I get to choose what segment I appear on? Max and Crack has a nice sound to it. Oh, I didn't know you wanted to come on this show, Max. Thank you for choosing us. Yeah, you get to pick your
I got to
segment.
give a shout out to a guy who hates me. So Average Joe contest, Weston Stratton won it 2 years ago, and he's been hypercritical of me. And I said, Weston, do you want to go one-on-one in the Circa, invitational contest? I'll do it for 100, 500, 5,000. You'd let me know. And he actually took me up on it.
There you go.
$500. So what? You know what? Win or lose.
500?
Yeah, we won 500.
Oh,
and dinner at Barry's. But the money doesn't matter. The point is, hey, here's a guy that isn't just internet tough guy. Here's a guy that's like
money doesn't matter. I would like to have seen a bit more than 500.
Well, I'm fine with it. The point is that he was willing to put something up with what he was saying. So
shout out to him, John Balduzzi. Only time I've ever had to trash dive, or as we like to refer to it, dumpster dive. Bet Tim Bradley, this refers to a conversation we had earlier in the week, bet Tim Bradley to beat Pacquiao, watched Manny crush him with my own eyes, didn't wait for the call so I could beat the cab line, tossed the ticket out. There's cell phone footage of me going through an MGM trash can, found it. That was the controversial split decision in favor of Tim Bradley over Manny Pacquiao that he's referring to. You have a dumpster dive moment?
Yeah, I'm living at the Meridian Apartments. It's the year 2001. Matt Yeomans was living there also, and so what's this $50 free match play mailed to each and every person? So I'm just going through garbage cans, picking up each coupon's worth $25. You win half the time.
Yeah.
So I must have gotten it's a Frank B move. I must have gotten 75 coupons. Just use a couple of them a day.
Again, boys and girls, I said this earlier. If you absolutely rip up your ticket, throw it away, and then you find out, oh wait, we won, or I'm entitled to a refund, whatever. You prematurely got rid of it. You can go, as long as you get to the window before someone else who finds it and cashes it. You can go to the window and say, hey, I bet it here or over there at that window for this amount of money at this time. They will usually hook you up, as long as no one gets to your ticket before that and cashes it. Okay, a couple things. What I want to harken back to the reduced juice lines at places like MGM who are dealing minus 102. It sort of brings to mind this stuff that we were talking about, alt win lines, or alt win totals, but we're all talking about alternate lines. and people are seduced by the plus 220s. If you're getting minus 102 now, you shouldn't even mess with those, right?
Yeah, so think about this. Do you want to try to win into a market that has like minus 102 in each direction? You have to hit 50.4% to win. Or do you want to move the point spread 5 points? And now you're looking at like minus 240 plus 200. So there's 40 cents of big fat VIG in that alternative total, and there's 4 cents of VIG in the minus 102 in each direction. I don't know about you, Gail, but I like laying minus 102. I like 2 cents of VIG, not 20 cents of VIG.
Yeah. Sounds more optimal is what it does. All right, let's go to last night's football game, Green Bay and Washington. I talked about it earlier on the show. I thought the two biggest takeaways from the game is, one, there was the transitive property of math where I'm like, oh, is Detroit not big enough of a favorite now against Chicago? What about now, Dallas? Are they not big enough of a favorite against the Giants? Washington having beaten the Giants, Green Bay having beaten Detroit last week. And so there's that. And the other thing, and I put this in the newsletter last night, which is also the biggest takeaway, and I know you agree with this, is, listen, I know this wasn't a large spread game. I know this one was only 3.5. But the fact that Washington, after getting so dominated, had a chance for a backdoor cover in that game at 3.5 ought to give you pause about any large spread in the NFL, and you're on board with that.
Yeah, you're always vulnerable. Like when you're laying, 9.5, you really got to think to yourself, I'm laying 16 in many ways, right? Because if you're up 16, you're so vulnerable to only winning by 8 with that backdoor score. And teams, ultimately, they want to win the game. So they play the prevent defense, and the other team matriculates down the field. It wouldn't have surprised us at all. It would have surprised me if Washington had lost that game by 2. But I kind of wouldn't have been surprised if it surprised me they didn't get a field goal on their final drive, right? We expect a team down 9 usually gets into field goal range and kicks a field goal.
Let's get into that. Mm-hmm. Okay, because I know I mentioned that we have the group exchange, and I was talking about this on Tuesday morning after the Bears and the Vikings, and I mentioned that when the Bears cut it to 3, they had that 51-second drive that cut it from 27-17 to 27-24. And on our group chat, you were like, oh, mark up Ben Johnson as one of these coaches that doesn't know that he's supposed to go from 4 to 2, that he's supposed to go with a 2-point conversion to cut it to 2 there. I then said, I think you're wrong. I agree with the 14 to 8 to 6. I'm not on board with the 10 to 4 to 2. And then I gave my reasons. And you and Todd argued it for like 2 hours into the night. Yesterday, Washington cuts it to 11 and goes for 2 and cuts it to 9. You loved that.
Yeah, and it's a really easy analysis because everyone knows that if you're down 14, you go down 8, you go for 2. And the reason being is that you're going to win 62.5% of the time because you got to assume you're going to get one more touchdown. All right. So if you make the 2-point conversion the first time, you win. All right. You're going to win by 1. And if you miss it, you still have a path to victory where you can get the 2-point conversion the second time and then win in overtime. And the same math applies. You have to assume, hey, I still need 2 scores. I need a touchdown and I need a field goal. So the field goal is, we're going to get the field goal. So you just lay it out and say, okay, it's the same thing as the 2 touchdowns, down 14 to 8, you go for 2.
Yeah, the reason I disagree with you on the 10 to 4 to 2, and by the way, this is time sensitive as well at the end of the game, the reason that I view the 10 to 4 to 2 differently is that brings into play the difference between a touchdown and a field goal needed.
Much more complicated.
And that calculus is much different than the
really
others.
Needs to be a Monte Carlo simulation, just run it 50,000 times.
Yeah. Minnesota returning the kickoff. Remember, so that sequence that I'm talking about, so they go ahead and they kick the extra point to cut it to 3. You're already upset about that. But then 2:02 left in the game. 2:02 left. You're north of the 2-minute warning. Chicago took an ill-advised timeout. The first one was an advised, if you will, timeout, was a proper one on the Cole Kmet catch where the ball got punched out. I still don't have a proper explanation as to why that was not a fumble. But the second one they used was a little dubious. So they end up with 1 timeout left, clock at 2:02, down 3. And instead of going for an onside kick to get the possession right back, or kicking the ball out of bounds because you have a kicker that is not known for his leg in Cairo Santos to get it out of the end zone, Chicago kicks it to the end zone, which is problem 101, which is a problem, but you love what Kevin O'Connell had going.
So
there.
O'Connell had instructed his kick returner, look, we need 2 seconds to run off this clock. You got to return the kick. I don't care how deep you are. And then the dude catches it 8 yards deep, and you can see, I'm really deep in the end zone because muscle memory says, I'm sure he's been screamed at, and this already happened earlier in the game, do not run the ball out of the end zone because you get it on the 35. And O'Connell's like, come on.
Right.
Come on. It's like that movie Capricorn 1 where the biplane, Telly Savalas' biplane's there and the astronaut, he's like waving to the astronaut, come on.
Yes.
And he takes
just
it
like
out.
that movie, Steve. Just like that
50
movie.
years ago.
Well, okay, but we actually saw the kick
James
return.
Brolin.
We actually saw his eyes look at Kevin O'Connell, and Kevin O'Connell do that. But could I? Because Todd brought this up. Shouldn't Kevin O'Connell have made that clear beforehand? Shouldn't have happened during the play.
I think he did, and then I think he wanted to reinforce it.
You're probably right. Kick returner's name escapes me now.
But David Kaufman, like one old bettor used to tell me, oh, Steve, if you were on the sideline, you wouldn't be able to handle this. It's totally untrue. Like Will Hill, you, me, Todd, we know immediately. Yeah. Immediately, always got to call timeout here. Got to do this. It's so rare we ever make a mistake. And like my estimate, I get it right within a couple seconds.